Hello, I have a story to tell you. Once upon a time, there was a little boy in the Boy Scouts. And this little boy in the Boy Scouts was brand new. It was his first day. And what he wanted above all else from the Boy Scouts was to find someone that he could look up to, that could teach him in the ways of life, that could teach him how to be a man, that could teach him how to be a strong, loyal boy. So this little boy asked the leader of the Boy Scouts, he said, "Leader of the Boy Scouts, what do I have to do in order to learn how to become a man?" And the leader of the Boy Scouts, he turns down to the little boy and he says, "Young boy, you need to find a role model." And the boy says, "A role model?" And the man says, "Yes, a role model." And the boy says, "A role model?" And the man says, "Yes, a role model." And the little boy says, "Okay, cool." And so week after week, the boy keeps on coming back to the man and says, "Man, leader, I haven't found a role model yet. Leader, I haven't found a role model yet. Leader, I haven't found a role model yet. I've been searching and searching and searching for a role model." And the leader man, he says, "Well, what about your father?" And the little boy says, "No, he's not a role model." The leader man says, "Well, what about your barber?" And the little boy says, "No, he's not a role model either." And the Boy Scout man says, "Well, what about our governor?" And the little boy says, "I don't even know what that is." And finally, it gets to the end of Boy Scout season, and the little boy breaks down because he hasn't been able to find his role model. He tells the man, he says, "I couldn't find one. I searched and I searched and I searched, and I found a lot of models, but they all walk. None of them roll." Ba-doom, 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 ba-doom. Listen, sometimes when in pursuit of a role model, we need to learn what an actual role model is and what to look for in one and why they're important. So that's what we'll be doing in today's episode of Love Stories with Grady. So let's get rolling like a role model. Hola, I'm Grady Wizork, that's my name, and I'm a 22-year-old boy who has never, ever dated a girl longer than 22 hours. In today's video, we are going to be talking about elements of love, things and factors that happen in the early stages of a young person's life in order for them to fully blossom into someone who can love others. This is part 4 in a 5-part series about the ladder of love within my Love Stories of Grady series. And this little 5-part series, as all Love Stories with Grady episodes are, is inspired by Facts of Life and Love for Teenagers by Evelyn Millis Duval, written in 1957. This ladders of love element of the book is discussed in chapter 10. Now in today's episode, we are going to be talking about 3 aspects of the rungs of this ladder of love, all right? In review, the point of this ladder of love is saying, in the early stages of life, we start at ladder rung number 1. And sometimes we might stay at this ladder or we can pass it. If we keep climbing the ladder, we're going to keep growing in love, and we want to make sure that we always do that in life because it's beneficial for us and it's beneficial for others. So the first rung is self-love. It's important to love yourself. Second rung, love for your family. That's important. Next rung after that is childhood sweethearts. Okay, we talked about that a lot in the last video, which is the moment where I almost got married. That's what that story is about, but you can listen to that and watch that another time. In this video, we're going to be talking about the next level, rung 4, which is role models. As young kids, what we search for is role models. And before I continue, the reason this is important to you, the reason this is vital to you, is because these rungs, these ladders of love, they might start cultivating when we're younger, but what's important is once we start seeing them cultivate when we're younger, it's important to say, are we still cultivating these things in life? For example, childhood sweetheart, are you literally going to be finding a childhood sweetheart now? No, likely not. But you are maybe potentially pursuing a sweetheart, and learning from those small moments when you were a child. Same thing for role models. You may have started admiring certain role models in your life when you're younger, but you have to start cultivating role models in your life now for where you want to be and where you want to go. So Evelyn Millis Duval says that role models are important because they help us expand our love and respect for authorities that aren't our parents. parents. Obviously, this is important to respect adults that aren't our parents, because if we only respect our parents out of all of the adults in the world, that's literally respecting a very, very, very small percentage of people. And I'm not going to say too much on this topic other than a few simple things, because we have some other rungs to get to in this video. But what I would recommend you do after watching this video, or while watching this video, you can pause this if you'd like, is ask yourself, who in my life are my role models? And you might find out that you have literally no role models in your life, and that's an issue, I would say, potentially right there. And so I would potentially try to find out, all right, who would I want to be my role models? And if you're not quite sure what to look for in a role model, here's what I would recommend you do. Sit down, ask yourself, where do I want to be 5 years from now? And then ask yourself, all right, who in my life do I know that is already there, already at that moment of being able to achieve this thing that I want? Once you figure that out, you can simply know, how can I decide to get with this person and learn how I can mirror my life in a sense after the path that they've taken in order to get where I want. Maybe someone is financially successful and you want to learn from that person in a business sense. Maybe someone is fantastic with their children and you want to learn from that person in that sense. Maybe someone is very talented in an area of singing or writing and you want to learn how they got to that point in their life where they were that skilled at that. These are all things that you can learn about when you sit down with them, when you buy them coffee, when you buy them lunch, when you buy them dinner, when you buy them a 4 for $4 meal at Wendy's. Whatever you do, you can sit down with them and glean from them. So I would recommend just buying them a lunch, and most people out there who would be good role models would be open to being a role model. You know, likely if they're very successful, they're going to be very busy, but that doesn't mean that you can't have them be a role model from afar. Not all role models have to be in your life 24/7. Instead, you can look at what they do and aspire to do that, while also giving yourself grace too, because you're not going to be perfect and your path might not be exactly like their path. However, another rung on the childhood ladder of love, or the ladder of love in general, is that when children are growing up, they tend to begin to cultivate crushes on older people. And it's interesting because in the book, in the 1957 book, it was talking about how young girls were actually having crushes on like men in their 50s. And that was interesting because it was like the Hollywood stars. Those were the Hollywood stars. Obviously, like, these girls didn't actually want to be with those men, but those were the people they had crushes on. Kind of like in today's day and age where, young girls go see superhero movies or something like that, and all of the girls want to be with that person on screen. Or maybe not all, you get what I'm saying. And young girls, it says in the book, tend to think that like boys their age are childish and dumb, and the girls want someone who's like mature. And same thing with like the boys, they have crushes on older girls. And I'll tell you who I had a crush on growing up in a second. But it was interesting, the book actually named actors that girls had crushes on back then, and it's all of these random people I would have never thought were like heartthrobs back in the day, because like I said, they're in their 50s. We got Fred Astaire, we got Bing Cosby, we got Clark Gable, who I don't know who that is, and we got Gary Cooper. So these people were all past their 50s. However, let's get to the more exciting stuff. Let's talk about modern day. Let's talk about little Grady. So who did little Grady have a crush on? Well, I think growing up, I'm probably gonna miss some girls in this. When I was watching the first Ninja Turtle movie that ever came out, I had a major crush on April O'Neil, who is right here somewhere on the screen. I thought she was so cute because I think her personality is what stood out to me the most. Like the fact that she was able to talk to these weird mutant turtles as peers and just be a cool person. I thought that was so cool. I admired that in a woman able to talk to mutant turtles. Respect. In addition to that, I had a crush on a girl on YouTube, actually. It would have been in 2011 or 12 that I discovered her channel. Her name was Christina Grimmie, and sadly, she is no longer with us here on this earth because she had a traumatic death, which I'm not going to go into, but definitely check out her music. It's actually really sad because she, I believe, was 22 years old when she died, and she died in 2015, and I remember finding out about her death like when it wasn't even certain if she had died yet, and I was, I think, 15 or 16 when it happened. Anyway, she was just super talented, super good singer. I just admired her so much because she had similar values to me as well. She went on to do big things. I think she made it third in The Voice in later years. But I remember really looking forward to her albums, really looking forward to future covers. And I don't know, she just had this cool personality to her that I really liked as well. And we can't forget the most important girl that I had a crush on growing up. Her name, of course, is Emma Stone. And I had a major crush on Emma Stone. It was right around the time before Amazing Spider-Man 1 came out. This is when the crush began to start to cultivate as I was getting excited for this movie. And then when the movie came out, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this girl. This girl is so cute. And interestingly enough, I think I was like 13 or 14 when the movie came out. And the movie almost created expectation for me for what to expect from a high school relationship. So that was kind of interesting. And it's funny because my crush on Emma Stone is somewhat connected to my role models. Growing up, I had a few role models that were actors who I had looked up to from a very young age. And years after I looked up to them, I still looked up to them, but they became my friends. And so it was weird to have guys that were like 4 years older than me I looked up to them. Now they were my friends. I still looked up to them. And they were talking about this girl named Emma Stone. And I'm like, if they think she's cute, I think she's cute too. I was just enraptured with this girl named Emma Stone. All right, we gotta wrap this up real quick. So the final rung on the ladder that I'm gonna be talking about in this video is serious attraction to others, to date them, to marry them, to have kids with them. Much of what happens in the early stages of life, in the early stages of the ladder, whether it's childhood sweethearts or role models or crushes on older people or the type of love you see within your family, all of these things somewhat form what you look for in someone else and what you look for in a relationship and the type of person that you expect to be with and that you want to be with. And this is why this rungs on the ladder conversation is so important, because if you have unhealthy attractions, you might want to look back at this rung ladder and think, all right, why in the heck do I want a brat girl, right? Why is that something that I want? Or why do I want a jerk guy? You know, why do I think that this is healthy? And when you start asking these questions and start really diving into your past and your thought process, and maybe it's not part of your past, maybe it's just part of your thought process, you might start finding the root of these things, and then you might be able to unroot these maybe misguided desires in order to plant your desires in something a little bit more healthy, in relationships that will actually be more beneficial to your life and the generations to come if you decide to have children. We're going to be discussing dating to marriage in future videos. That's not something I'm going to be going into too much right now, but know that that is an important rung on the ladder if that's where someone wants to go with their life. Not everyone has to get married. If you don't want to get married, you don't have to. Not everyone has to date. If you don't want to date, don't date. For me, I've told people plenty of times that I'm very picky about who I choose to date and the type of person that I want to be with in a relationship. And that is part of the reason that I've only had a 22-hour relationship at the age of 22. It's because I don't want to be in a relationship with someone if I don't think they're going to be an absolute good fit for me. But anyway, we'll get into this more in future videos probably. But the point of this is, I want to know from you. Comment this below. What did you learn from your role models growing up? What older celebrities or whoever it may be, people older than you, did you really have a crush on growing up? And tell me how these things somewhat shaped the type of people that you want to be with now today in relationships. All right, that's all of the questions that I have for you, and I'd love to read your comments below. Like, I'm seriously, genuinely interested in hearing what you have to say below. But until next time, I will say, be sure to subscribe. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you on the next video.